Hi, everyone. So sorry. That's what happens with live stuff. I actually forgot to. Um, I just want to make sure that we're on live, but um, I actually forgot to make my computer hardwired, so it it was knocking us off there. So anyway, let me just be sure that we're on live. But I wanted to tell you we had oh well, here I guess we are live anyway. So David, we're live. But what happened was Jimmy Lamb was supposed to be here, and unfortunately, he has lost power. And so, of course, I asked the one and only David Gross, who is the guru in the industry, if he would fill in for me on helping you guys with all your questions. There's so many new people, David, and they have lots and lots and lots of questions. So, who better than you to help us through all of this? And so, and please feel free to ask whatever questions you want, because this is the man who's got the answers.
Yeah, let me just say this, Cheryl. Glad to be with you. I got a post the other day.
Who better than you?
And I don't know how to take it,
Okay.
And basically the guy said that I was the Fred Rogers of sublimation.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. That's hilarious. That is funny, David. That is really funny.
First of all, it took me a couple of seconds to remember who Fred Rogers
right
is.
Mr. Rogers, right.
and so I was going like, what does this mean? And of course Fred Rogers was, after he passed away, people had his history, and he was a truly amazing person before he became Mr. Rogers. So,
well, there's a whole lot of love going on here. People, this is really cool. Lots of people are tuning in, David, which is really, really awesome. So, and lots of hellos. So,
hello out there.
Yeah.
So let's get started. First, I wanted to state that I am not dressing up as Jimmy Lamb for Halloween. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
But good. Tomorrow you may see who I am going to dress up for, and how I used sublimation to do the dress up.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so cliffhanger here. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I do want you to know that for all of you tuning in right now, and we have a lot of you, and shall we call you Mr. Gross? Okay, if you want to.
So let's get started. So you're welcome to ask questions.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm going to try to hit a couple of topics. You may just sort of get the ball rolling here.
Yes, I would, David. That would be really great.
So,
and I'll be writing down questions as they come in.
When I teach my class on sublimation, it's really it's what I call Road to Sublimation Success. And the reason is when I started all this 26 years ago, I would say that it was relatively difficult to be successful with sublimation, and so I used the analogy of roadkill, and so if I talked to a client and they said, I finally had to give up, I couldn't keep my printer going or whatever reason, and I thought of the analogy of roadkill. I thought of the analogy of road to sublimation success, except the road sort of never ends. You're always there, and you could always make the highway bigger and the car better. But today, after all these years, sublimation is a technology that I am very much in love with, and it has become extremely easy to do, low cost, and very powerful. And people often ask, how did all this get started? And basically, it started around 1938 in England.
Wow.
Where some folks there in England first observed that some synthetic dyes, when heated, stained acetate materials. And they started studying it, and I've read some of the early stuff. And basically, not a whole lot, and they did this accidentally. I mean, they weren't planning on doing it. They just observed it. And spring forward to the beginning of World War II, in that era was the discovery of polyester and other synthetic fibers and things like that. And ultimately, they started putting two together, and they found out that these naturally occurring dyes that were still to this day are called dispersed dyes. They're not in the scientific world. We don't call them sublimation dyes. They're called dispersed dyes. That they would dye these synthetic fabrics like polyester. And in the early days, they were screen printing the dyes onto paper and then pressing them onto fabric. They were also printing the dyes with a printing press and then pressing it. And so sublimation actually did very well for a long time as people realized it's a great decorating technology. But as we enter really the late 70s and into the 80s is really where sublimation began its really journey into what I would call the digital world. And some of the pioneers out there were using little teeny tiny little video printers. They were actually true dye sub printers to decorate mugs. And those printers were true dye sub printers. They sublimated in the printer using a thermal print head, and then you transferred to a coated mug. So they were coating the mugs with a polyurethane, so that you could receive the dyes. And so those early pioneers really, we owe them a debt of gratitude for what they've done. People like Bob Elliott, which he's still alive as far as I know, and Mick Eminger, which passed away, and so many people that I maybe even never knew their name were responsible. Now, and then moving finally into the PC age of 81, inkjet printers started coming about. There was a small little play with thermal wax printers using ribbons that had dyes on them. But ultimately, inkjet printers turned out to be the way to go. And so today we print with colored water that has suspended in it these dispersed dyes. We use print heads that are piezo. Piezo vibrates the ink out, where other printer manufacturers like HP use thermal print heads. And thermal print heads, because they're heat activated, thermal doesn't work so well with those. But if you look at 2018, we now have really good printers. We obviously have good computers. And the best part of sublimation is we have thousands of things to decorate to. So things are really, really good for sublimation. Now, another part of sublimation is the big printers. And in the big printers that do large fabric, that has gone completely and utterly viral. With backdrops for a trade show booth, for ladies' clothing, men's shirts, all over print, bicycling apparel. All that is just, sublimation is become so popular around the world.
Well, I want to just interject a couple of things here, that comments that I think you'll appreciate. Tammy says, I love hearing the history of sublimation. Thank you, David. Observation is a key component to innovation. And John says, I'm so happy that I saw this. My first time watching it live. Excited to learn. So a lot of cool comments, a lot of hellos. I bought one of my Mr. Elliott's first mug press. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
and that would have been like an Org 1, I believe was the model.
And then they heard the doorbell. I'm sure it's just packages. That's all. Okay, so Avon calling. Are you going to sub or explain the process for the thermos you are using?
Say again?
James is asking, are you going to sub or explain the process for the thermos you are using? So, David, are you using a thermos?
Oh, this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my coffee bottle, and it's one of our tapered mugs. And it was the original prototype many years ago that we used to bring out our tapered bottles. And basically, you can put it in a mug press, you can put it in an oven, and it sublimates quite well.
Awesome. Okay. A lot of love. I just got to tell you, the hearts just keep flying here.
So let me just say this. So we're going to walk through some things here. I've got really, I'd say four sections to cover real quick. But the point is that today's innovation isn't necessarily coming from people like me. It's coming from people like you. I think, the especially folks that are maybe coming from a different industry, different whatever, young folks, old folks, they will see things that are truly amazing, and we learn so much every day from our clients of trial and error. I was trying to think of something that happened recently. I know there are a couple of things where sort of a game changer. Oh yeah, do that, And so it's amazing. For instance, we have a mug box that's sublimatable, Subli-Stock type material.
Yes.
So just so many cool, neat things. And so our industry very much is set in a viral motion. And a lot of the credit for its success goes to those early pioneers, but it also goes to companies that are really investing in our industry. People like the people at Universal Woods, better known as Unisub or Chromolux. They are just doing absolutely amazing things with sublimation onto metal, hardboard, MDF, other substrates. They're just absolutely amazing. So it's to work with those folks and to see their success is truly amazing. So
they
just
want
a lot
to know.
of
They just want to know if the thermos that you're using, if that is a wrap. If you use a wrap with that, and if so, do you sell that wrap?
So we do sell the wrap. I don't know the part number because I'm not too good at remembering things like that. So you can put it in an oven. You can also put it in a mug press. I think in the real near future, we will for products like this, and today, if you want to do it today, you could do it. We will shift to a different technology wrap. And so if you're interested in the tapered bottles, go for it. Just check with your Condi rep and they can get with me. But we are shifting for things that don't have a handle. We're going to shift away from the traditional clamp kind of wraps to a sleeve. And that's just one of those innovations. I would tend to call that what we call Kaizen, meaning it's a constant innovation. And the reason we need to do that is because the wraps were designed for products that had a handle. There's no handle. So when you can tape your transfer all the way around and then slide the sleeve over, which is just a sort of piece of rubber, and then you're able to go all the way around with ease. Also, you can control to some extent how tall you want your transfer to go to. What how far can you really reach here? So every day there's just constant innovation. We're working with also a new kind of uh, way to do your own wraps, um, and that should be out relatively soon. But it's basically a, a specialized shrink wrap material. So you put your object in there with the transfer, and as it gets heated, the shrink wrap collapses around it so that it anchors the transfer to the mug. So there is just so much innovation, and I think one of the things is we want to make things more reliable, lower cost, um, and just work better. I knew the example I wanted to bring out. So for years we've done socks. Socks are incredibly popular in sublimation, but socks were relatively difficult to do because you had to take the sock, you had to put it over a jig. The jig made of phenolic kind of laminate material, and then you would put the transfer and press, but it always was a big hassle to do all those steps. And so one of our clients said, why not just have the socks purchased with a little jig built in, a little cardboard jig? And almost overnight, that's what we did. So today, socks are trivial to do. They're an absolute no-brainer, require no skill whatsoever, work great, consistent in their size, look great. So that's an example of us not seeing something that's right before our eyes, was just buy the socks with a jig inside.
Yes, perfect solution. And this industry is evolving. Literally in the last 5 years, it has, it's you can't hardly even think of it in the same way you did 5 years ago, because so much has changed, and a lot, I'm sure, has to do with customers, making suggestions and saying, well, why don't we do this or try that? So it's awesome. This is an awesome
Let's
industry.
talk about the process. So, basically from a process point of view, we've got the computer, printer, heat press.
Yeah.
And at the computer, it's your job to make stuff that people want. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And to a large extent, what I tell people is that we can teach you extremely well, I might add, how to do sublimation, and it's to me, it's very easy for the majority of products. But ultimately, on the computer side, we can't teach you very well to design stuff. That's sort of a skill that you either know or want to learn, take classes, partner with someone who knows, all sorts of things. But ultimately, that should be the focus of many people, is how can you do a good job of creating stuff that people want? And I would say that it's done according to your business model. Like, for instance, many people might have artwork that can be personalized. It could be chevrons, patterns. It can be put a monogram. So there are ways to deal with that. But ultimately, that's something that you need to focus on. You can certainly ask us for our thoughts on what you should do. But ultimately, you got to do a good job at the computer, to make stuff that people want. The printer and heat press part of it, I would say that, first of all, buy good equipment, and we'll talk about that later. But ultimately, the best way to be good at that is to do it, of course, and to document what you're doing, and then to create what I call your wall of shame, meaning when you do make mistakes, like I do, then instead of throwing them away, instead of hiding them, instead of trying to pretend they didn't happen, that you learn from them. So it's just critical that during this process you learn. I'll give you an example, is that for whatever reason, people have a tough time understanding that, you have to learn. And the example I use is none of us learned to drive a car by getting on the interstate day one. It didn't work that way. And so for you to believe that you suddenly can master sublimation in one pressing is crazy. You're going to have to do some practicing. You're going to have to do some mistakes. So what I tell everybody is on their way home with their printer, they need to stop by, for instance, a Joann's or Hancock's and get a couple of yards of white 100% polyester,
Yes.
and let that be your beginning path to sublimation success. Practice. Be willing to waste product. And so starting with fabric is a good way to waste product because it's relatively inexpensive. And so I think
Condi has a test kit that I always recommend for people to buy because it has the hardboard, it has the FRP, and it has the aluminum in it. And I'm not sure if it has anything else, but
so the test kits are absolutely awesome, and I think the test kits serve sort of the second phase of testing after you've done some transfers, because you can get familiar with a product, but you could also make a product to show somebody to start planting those seeds to grow your business. So
yes.
the starter kits are sort of cost reduced for practice, and you can always ask for samples. But you know, it's very peculiar when a client calls and said, you know, I'm beginning sublimation, I'm pressing to a 2x3 name badge, I'm not getting good results, what am I doing wrong? That's sort of a very challenging scenario to begin with, because obviously we're not going to learn a lot. You know, I saw some stuff today for a client, and you know, it very new, brand new. It looks like they're printing on the wrong side of the paper. You know,
right.
So you know,
it's
like all those mistakes. So documenting your best practices, what's working for you, is important. So. And then the last
one
element.
comment here, it says, my husband tries to keep all his mess up cups. I told him there wasn't enough room for him.
I got you. And the last thing, so last thing is, so we got the computer or the design element of your sublimation business. We got the process. And the last element of success is sales and marketing. And if you become good at the process, if you become good at the computer, obviously those are not going to benefit you in any way unless you get out there and sell and market the product. And so some people are willing to do that. Others think that suddenly the doorbell is going to ring like yours just did, and people are going to give you their money for these products. That doesn't happen very often. And so you need to come up with your sales and marketing plan of how you can do it. Now, sometimes that's easy because sublimation is an add-on to your business. Sometimes it's hard because, you know, everything is new to you. But the bottom line is we can be a wealth of information to tell you essentially what is working for other people. And so just ask, and we'll give you our advice. But ultimately, here at Condi, it's a very simple business equation. We need you to be successful. If you are not successful, you're not going to be in a position to buy stuff from us and to grow your business. So we're going to work very hard, and we're going to work smart at helping you be successful. So first thing is, you know, you've got to be willing to document carefully what's going on around you. What are your interests? What markets do you see? What do you want to sell into? But then start asking questions. You can ask questions of you, Cheryl. You can ask questions of the folks here on the forum. What's working? You can ask us. And by doing that, you can start building up your strategy. What I always tell everybody is that regardless of what you think your business is or what you think you should be doing, I tell everybody they need to be involved with 3 different what I call independent streams of income. And number one is partner with a pet groomer. Set up a little display at the pet groomer with a few personalized products and get the pet grooming store to sell them for you. You fulfill the orders, you cut them a little bit of the profit, they'll love you. So it's a great market. And the logic there is very simple. Nobody takes their dog to a pet groomer because they have to. They take it because they love it. Number two business is fundraising. Get involved with fundraising. Find out every organization that you, your family, your friends are involved with. Start asking. If you know of an organization that doesn't have a fundraiser, suggest one to it, because offering personalized products into a fundraising environment is an awesome hit. And you would be surprised at how little organizations make money at some of the silly, no-value fundraising stuff, like wrapping paper, like chocolate, because they always have overages, waste, no telling what happens. And so having a sublimated Christmas ornament, one side for the organization, one side for the personalized photo, is an unbelievably successful program. And so just simply go do it. And the third is name badges. Everybody should be selling name badges, because name badges, Sublimation does the very best job, and you can make huge amounts of money with name badges. And name badges are the only product that you only have to sell once, and then they simply reorder. And so everybody needs a good-looking name badge. Your organizations, churches, schools, companies, you name it. When we go to shows, one of the things I point out to people is I tell them, look around, and essentially you won't find a single company that's exhibiting at this show that has a professional-looking name badge. And so those people want to buy a name badge. And guess why they're not buying a name badge? Cheryl, can you guess why?
I don't know, David. Why?
Because no one is asking them to buy it.
Oh, of course, it's true.
Nobody.
I do have some comments if you want them.
Go ahead.
Evelyn says, I have started a book to remember my successes and failures, which I am a big proponent of having, keeping notes on your times, your temps, what works and what doesn't work. So I think that that's a great tip for somebody new. And then, wow, those are really good options. Never thought of name badges. And I agree that we tend to forget about name badges. It's really true, and so many companies need them. So it's awesome.
Okay, let's walk through the equipment, so to speak, and it starts with a computer. I really don't care if it's Mac or PC. We tend to favor the PC in the sublimation industry simply because of CorelDRAW. CorelDRAW is only available today for Windows. Years ago, it was Mac and PC. And so Corel turns out to be the Swiss Army knife. It does literally everything. And so Corel is difficult to learn, but it is extremely powerful. Here at Condi, we sell Corel. We sell it at a greatly reduced price because we sell it under an OEM agreement with Corel, meaning we're selling only into our industry. We don't try to sell into other industries. So when you're looking at a computer, the real thing is buy a computer that has lots of RAM. If you have an existing computer, see if you can add more RAM. RAM is the key to life. And so, I would say that in today's world, you're probably going to be running Windows 10. There's a new version of Windows that's just out called Windows 10S. Do not use Windows 10S. It will not work for sublimation. You cannot use it. And it is essentially a locked down version of Windows 10. It will not allow you to install third-party applications unless they're in the Microsoft App Store. So
Wow.
It's intolerable for us. It just isn't going to work.
Wow.
So that's the computer.
Okay,
Now,
so I have another question, David. I'm sorry.
Sure.
James is asking if there is a zip file that contains all the templates, or can one be created so I don't have to go get one each time for each item?
So I apologize for that, James, but the answer is no. And the reason is we are constantly updating our templates. We're constantly changing them, and so
And instructions as well.
and very much instructions. So your idea is certainly a worthy idea. It is a great idea, but we've been, I guess, challenged to do that because of just the number of products and the number of changes. So anytime a client reports an issue with a template, we're going to go in and we're going to update the template. The template standards are going to keep changing. So again, sorry about that, but that's sort of the situation we're in. So let's move to the printer. Any more computer type questions?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay, I do recommend with your computer you get a UPS. That's a battery backup. I recommend that you connect your Sublimation printer and your computer to it, and don't hook up a laser printer to it, but just your Sublimation printer. Let's talk about Sublimation printers. So today, I would say there are really two kinds of printers on the market you can buy, so to speak. One is inkjet and one is color laser. And I wanted to cover color laser because, it's sooner or later it's going to come up and you need to sort of understand it. So color laser printers, we exploit them to do transfer paper. We have white color laser printers, just a whole lot of magic. But in the world of sublimation, we have tried to have a color laser printer that does a good job with sublimation. And the answer is we've just not ever been happy with the results. And the reason is inkjet printers just print so well with such high quality. Color laser printers, they're not at that level of quality when it comes to graphics and raster images and photographs. But there are companies that continue to this day to try to do that, and I try to be polite and professional and courteous to all of them. Say, send me your stuff, let me look at it, and I've just not found something that I was happy with. But on the other hand, if people have them, I'm happy to help them with substrates and all that. So what is dominant today is certainly inkjet, and in the inkjet world, we have really, we'll call it two classes of printers. The kind that go on a desktop and the kind that go on a stand. And the stand, we refer to those as really large format or wide format. For the desktop world, there's two principal manufacturers, Ricoh and Epson. And years ago, the only thing we had for sublimation was Epson. And we did the best we could with Epson, but ultimately, Epson was not interested in sublimation. In fact, they were challenging to deal with sublimation, and their printers just were not ideal from a feature point of view. For instance, you really need a built-in bulk system or a built-in large cartridge system. You just need all sorts of things. And so ultimately, Ricoh came into the picture, and they designed their printers at first for the high volume office markets. And we fell in love with Ricoh probably 14 years ago. And Ricoh actually at first was very perturbed at sublimators. You know, who are these people? What do they want? Why are they bothering us? You know, and those kinds of things. But gradually, they absolutely fell in love with our industry. And so today, the printers that we offer for Sublimation are made by Rico. They bear the name of the company that makes the ink, which is Sawgrass. And Sawgrass is a company that really was really one of the very, very first companies that basically put their money where their mouth is and started making sublimation ink. But more importantly, they put the money into growing the market. They really wanted sublimation to take off, and so they started spending the money to promote sublimation at trade shows and you name it. And so a huge amount of the credit for what we enjoy today, whether you use an Epson printer or a Rico printer, goes to Sawgrass for really pioneering this industry.
That's awesome. What do you think of the new bulk Epson printer for sublimation, David? Oh, we lost him. Oh no. Oh, David. I know. Well, hopefully he's gonna get right back on here. I don't know what happened to David. Oh, David, we need you. He probably doesn't realize he's gone. Let me message him. Okay. Okay, so just give us a second. Hopefully he will get right back. He does this on his phone. He's not, he's not hardwired, and so we definitely have challenges sometimes with that. But no worries, we'll get him back here. We just got to tune back in. We'll get him. I messaged him, so hopefully he'll get back on. But these are really great questions, and Evelyn, I know he will answer because that's really good. I know he says he can't. He can't. Are those cups on the bottom shelf of the rack behind you? Wait. Are they cups on the... Yeah. They are. Yeah, well, you know what, Jennifer, the cool thing is that it will be here so you can go back and watch. That would be interesting if his battery died. My goodness. I'm gonna... let me call him. So we are live without David, but I'm calling. It's ringing. It couldn't be that his phone died. Oh. Well, maybe he doesn't know that he's been dropped. Let's see. Wow. I know. Today is just not the day for guest speakers. Well, I don't know. I'm going to call the office, though. I'll call the office instead of his cell and see if I can I can get the office. But you guys are awesome. That's all I can say about that. Let's call the office. And oh, he just messaged me, so don't have to call the office. Okay, so let's get him back. Let's hope that we can tune him in. So Angela, so Angela, what about the mugs or the cups? Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. So we are still waiting for David. And okay. Maybe we can have a bake sale to raise money to purchase our okay, so just a waiting message. Me too. Okay. All right. Okay. Ah, very good. All right. I don't remember. There was a question that I was asking you, but oh, the Epson printer. Did you hear that? Okay, so I can see you, but nobody else can. Okay, so let's. So Tammy says she's gonna have a fundraiser, and so she can hardwire you in, so we don't lose you. Okay, so the question was, let's see, Evelyn. Okay, Evelyn wanted to know. Let's see, what do you think of the new bulk Epson printer? The new bulk Epson printer for sublimation.
So I think I talked to myself for quite a long time about this, so I apologize. and ultimately, we were in the Epson world for many years with sublimation because that was the only printer around. And then Ricoh came in, and at first they were.
Yeah, we heard that.
Yeah, you heard all that.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that that the Epson, like the EcoTank printers, things like that, I think they have the characteristics ultimately, to make a good sublimation printer, very much like an engine in a car might make a good race car, but it's the rest of the stuff that you put around it that makes it successful. And I would say that Epson certainly has gone out of their way to be antagonistic about desktop sublimation folks. They are not interested in warranting the printers. They're certainly not interested in supporting sublimation.
Yeah.
And so it's a little hard for us to sell or promote something that the manufacturer says, is not warranty. And so that's why we've certainly gravitated to the Ricos. So
here's the question. So Cobra Inc., they support that to a degree. Is that correct?
So I'm familiar with the people at Cobra. I try to be friends with everybody in our industry, and I find that that's a really good way to go. Maybe that's why people were saying I was Fred Rogers. I'm not sure. But at any rate, the point is that the Rico-based printers are completely turnkey. Every part of it is turnkey. They're great programs for support and warranty and all that. And Cobra certainly can do what they can to help you be successful with their ink, okay, with their support. And I certainly wish them the best with what they're doing. But ultimately, I think with the Ricos and with all the stuff that we're doing, I think we're a fair bit ahead from a quality point of view, from a color point of view, from a product point of view, from support point of view.
Well, David, I want to say something here because having this group of, sublimation for beginners and beyond, I deal with this literally on a daily basis. And I feel so bad for the people who invest money, whether it's, $200, $300, to end up having clogged heads, color profiles are off, just all the things that people go through. The thing that makes me sad about it, and the reason that I promote Sawgrass, is because I know what's going to happen when they press that first press. If they have Condi set up the printer, Condi, just so you all know, Condi actually has exclusive profiles that they created. And so when you have Condi set up your profiles, you're going to have beautiful colors. And so we want, I want you guys to be successful. It is truly my desire to see that. And when I deal with people that say, the Epson, I don't want to discourage anybody from not doing sublimation, but I also have seen people quit sublimation because they got an Epson. It got, it clogged up, the colors weren't right, all that stuff. And it's frustrating to see that and sad,
So a couple of things. So first is, can you get great sublimation out of an Epson printer with a sublimation ink? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. And so if somebody comes up to me at a trade show, which I remember recently at the Fort Worth, and they said, I'm learning about Condi for the first time, understanding what's going on here, but I just bought an Epson printer with ink. What should I do? And I told them, it was a lady, I told her, let's figure out how to help you make it work. because you've already bought it. And so what I would say is that if you have something, figure out how to make it work. Use it.
If you can, that's the thing. And my page is filled with people who are trying to get it to work. And, John says that's exactly what happened to us. We went with an Epson and have had zero luck so far. And I want to say to everyone, and I don't usually say this, but I want to say this to you, that I would rather see you save up a couple $100 more and wait and get a Sawgrass printer, because I know that you're going to get the support. I know you're going to have the right profiles. Supposedly Epson has come out with a no profiles ink. I think that's still out.
Yeah, and I think so the bottom line is, if you put a race car driver behind the wheel of a clunker, they will run rings around a normal driver in a really good car, because they know how to use it. They know how to get the car to perform. They know how to drive it. And so there's always ways to do things. I guess the path that we've chosen is the path of, I want you to be successful so you can buy substrates. That's the path I'm on. And so we have a tremendous amount of investment in resources to help you be successful with the printer. But on the other hand, I try to stay friends with everybody like Cobra, and I wish them well. And I would say that what they're doing today is certainly positive for our industry, and that's what I'm after. Today, I forgot to mention, today I see myself a little bit, we'll call it a sublimation evangelist. I want our industry to do well. And so
I got to remember that, David, because that's really what I should call myself too, because it's the truth. John says that it might be his Christmas gift to ourselves this year. And I just want you to know, John, that our group gets a discount, and we are, we are really fortunate to partner with Condi, because, again, I could tell stories of, contacting David about people's situation, or having people contact David, and he will take that phone call and he will do his absolute best to get you up and running. And if whatever, I mean, he will find a solution. We certainly enjoy it.
I would say that, again, you need to pick a printer. I'm telling you my recommendations because I believe in them. I'm certainly keeping my ears open, my eyes open for what Epson might do in the future. We are Epson partner on their big printers, and so we're plugged into all that, sell it. But today, we're looking for printers and to help you be successful. Now, I'd like to move to a heat press for a second, and if there are any more questions about printers, we certainly can cover it. The heat presses are a little bit more concerning to me, because a lot of people are enticed into buying a Chinese press. And I would say there are certainly good Chinese presses out there, but in the Chinese world, as opposed to the printer world, every press you take out of the box seems to be hit and miss. You might find a good one, you might have a bad one, uneven heat across the platen, an electrical issue that might actually electrocute you. There seems to be no rhyme or reason with the variations in quality with these Chinese presses, and that certainly concerns me, because people are very quick to say, well, I guess it's the paper, or I guess it's my graphic, or I guess it's the ink, or I guess it's the printer. only to find out it's a heat press issue. And so, I would say that it's certainly in your best interest, if you want to be successful, to save up your money and buy a good quality press. In the United States, we've got a couple of manufacturers of heat presses. People like the George Knight Company, Hicks, Insta, and Stalls are 4 manufacturers. And guess what? Those 4 manufacturers do a great job of supporting their product. I think they do a great job of the warranty behind them. And so, if at all possible, buy a well-supported U.S.-made press. Now, some of these presses you see out there, they're being carefully disguised to be a U.S. press, but they're not. And so, be very leery of, if it's not one of those 4, then it's not a U.S.-made press. The company that we favor is the George Knight Company. They are a 126-year-old company. In my opinion, they make the most durable, the most reliable presses. And when something does go wrong, whatever, even if it's with a press that's, say, 30 years old, there's a very good chance that Aaron Knight at the George Knight Company can take care of the issue just about by snapping his fingers. There just isn't a press company out there that is in that position. So we certainly can sleep very well at night if you are the owner of a George Knight heat press.
Okay, so a couple of questions. And I believe Dallas made a comment, and I've missed it, and I apologize. So if you could repost, I would appreciate that. Okay, so James says, so since we're talking about inks, can we hear his thoughts on Chromoblast? Worth the dedicated investment for cotton option? Okay.
So the question is in reference to Chromoblast, which often comes up with sublimation. So Chromoblast is not sublimation. And so what Sawgrass did is they obviously saw that the weakness in sublimation, if you will, was that you could not decorate a cotton shirt. And so what they did is, since they could make ink, they made a very high quality textile ink and married it with a great inkjet transfer paper. So the Chromoblast solution is really a glorified inkjet transfer solution. That's what it is. And I would say that it works very well, but for a very narrow focused need, and that is it will allow you to decorate a white cotton or white 50-50 shirt. It doesn't do anything else. It will not go well to light colored shirts or do any dark or anything like that. So I would say is, if you're happy with decorating white shirts for the rest of the printer's life, then Chromoblast is a good solution. What I would tend to focus on, if somebody's interested in a cotton solution, is to look at what their options are. And that is, we have color laser printers. There are even what I would call really good inkjet transfer papers that you can use with your existing inkjet systems, things like the Nina Jet Pro Soft Stretch, the relaunched Nina Activewear transfer paper. Those all actually work quite well. But ultimately, if your focus is going to be on decorating cotton 50-50, white, light, darks, then that's really the domain of an Oki white color laser printer.
Okay, I hope that answered that question, because that was great. Okay, unfortunately I missed this other question, and I really apologize for that. There's lots of comments though, which is awesome. We love the comments, and just keep the questions coming. Okay, so David, what would you say with a heat press? if they can't afford, $1,500 or $2,000, would you recommend getting the smaller George Knight, the 12 by 14 or the 9 by 12? To begin
I
with?
probably don't have a good recommendation. You just do what you have to do, find you something. The real challenge, even with the small George Knight presses, is once you go into that price range, essentially it's a compromise press. There's just not enough there. And the George Knight, for instance, JP14, which is actually pretty darn popular, is an inexpensive, I guess it's 8 by 14 or 9 by 14, one of their. To me, it would be the press to go with if you required portability. But these presses are all, for the most part, relatively low heat output presses. So it's sort of like cooking with a Coleman stove at home. But, you do what you have to do. We certainly will endeavor to support you with whatever press you have. But, you're going to get what you pay for. And they can be uneven heat, low heat output. And there's just obviously some things that, we're probably not going to do too well in the support area if the press just isn't consistent enough to sublimate.
Okay, so Kathy asked if products like dye press to help on cotton shirts, are these products worth the money?
So there's a rush to decorate cotton. And interestingly enough, a lot of sublimators want to do that. In the grand scheme of things, the sublimation industry, the desktop industry, that is actually pretty small compared to using Jet Pro Soft Stretch in an inkjet printer. That's a very large market. There's a lot of people who do that. And so the question is, what's the best way to push sublimation into the cotton world? And the dye press product they're referring to basically is quite unusual. You print onto basically somewhat of a specialized piece of sublimation paper, and when it comes out, the ink is sort of still wet, and you pour a polyester powder on top, and wherever the wet ink is, the powder adheres to it, and then when you press it, the everything sort of melts into the shirt, and the sublimation part of it sublimates into the polyester powder, and that's how you get your shirt. And so
there's actually, I'm sorry, David, there's actually a company called Dye Press that I believe she's referring to, and it is a liquid that you spray.
Okay. So whatever I just described, it has a different name. So the dye press then is referring to basically coating the shirt with a polyester coating.
Yes.
And, I've seen that approach, and I'm not in love with it because, again, you wonder, okay, how well is the liquid going to hold up? Did you do a good job of it? How much money did you spend in just putting it on? I've not received a whole lot of feedback, positive or negative, about that product. So, I'm open to it. The approach
I used it years ago. I used it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and not for T-shirts, but for hard surfaces. I think it's a great product. However, I just think the time that it takes you to actually do all of it is a lot. It takes a lot of time. And, in terms of the durability, I bet that there are people that on here that could tell us about the durability of putting it on a cotton shirt. But if there isn't, you certainly could ask it in the group. But I think, to me, the if I'm gonna do it, if I had to do a cotton shirt, I would do what David was suggesting, which is with the Nina SS and the active. What is it, David? I'm sorry.
I
What's
think
the
it's
name
called active wear. It's intended. So
Yeah.
Just to get back to it. So if you're going to all that trouble, even though polyester shirts cost a little bit more, maybe you ought to just use a polyester shirt. Now, our solution in trying to push into the cotton world has been through the Reveal S transfer paper from Vivid Chemical. And I would say that solution works okay, but is limited to bold graphics. And so today, I would say there's no cotton solution that I think ultimately I want to put my stamp of approval on. The coating shirts just doesn't grab me as being the thing to do. The powder that I mentioned is promising. The Vivid Chemical solution, which is a Reveal, works well, but the window of success is you've got to do it correctly, right time and temperature, that kind of thing. So
okay, I have somebody here that has used both. She says, I've used both. They have made it through a lot of washings. I prefer polyester shirts, but a lot of people don't like how thin they usually are. Okay, so somebody else is asking if there are sample packs of the Nina paper. And yes, when David was at the last show, he had Doug put sample packs together. So yes, there are sample packs that you guys can call and
yeah, the
let them
Nina
know, because I
Jeffro
know
Soft Stretch is excellent. It's an excellent paper.
Yeah, I want to try it myself, so just so I can say that I tried it. But if you have a white toner laser printer, you really don't need to do that. But it's it's another option. So okay.
Also, what I would say is that FlexOff is a product to learn and study about, because with a simple, inexpensive monochrome laser printer, you can do so much on a cotton shirt with it.
That's right.
It's truly amazing. I think it's probably the best kept secret in the digital decorating world is FlexOff.
So another question, what is the best sublimation paper to use?
So
that's a great question.
First of all, what is sublimation paper? Well, it's not transfer paper. The active ingredient in sublimation is the sublimation ink. The purpose of paper is to carry the ink from the printer to the heat press. So the papers that we use today, we'll classify them as sort of special, and because of that, they're relatively inexpensive. So we push two papers for the desktop: the Dytrans SPP, which is probably the world's best paper for hard substrate transfers, very crisp, minimal dot gain, with good release. The other paper is the Beaver Text Print line of papers. There's one for Epson, and then there's one for Ricoh. And those papers have a little bit extra release that is really ideally suited for soft substrates, and then for substrates that are very thirsty. In other words, they'll take a lot of ink in, like, for instance, our glass, the acrylic, our color light acrylic, slate. And so ultimately, two papers and you're very much armed for success. There's a lot of papers out there that are no brand name, whatever. But the bottom line is you sort of get what you pay for, and we have two excellent papers. Our Dytrans paper works great in in Ricoh base printers and Epson base printers.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Okay, so Angela says I love ProJet SS paper and the Jet Opaque paper. So that's awesome. Okay, so let's see if we have any other questions here. Just by the way, everyone, just so you guys know that this is not our usual David and Cheryl show. So we will still be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will have back with us Sprite Rose. She'll be here, so we're excited to have her back. I know you guys have missed her a lot, so yay, having Sprite will be awesome.
It will.
Okay,
so just sort of to wrap up here real quick,
great.
And that is my best suggestions for sublimation is ask questions. Just like you're doing now, ask questions so you understand things. But ultimately, I have too many clients that after they made a decision, they never take the printer out of the box. I'm just baffled by those kind of people. And, you know, it'd be sort of like buying a car. It's in the driveway.
And never drive it.
But you're too scared, too afraid to ever go take it for a drive. That's crazy. So you know, sublimation to me is ridiculously easy, especially with the state of technology, the turnkey printers, all the substrates. So get it. So the first tip is ask questions and document. Document what you want to know. Document successes, failures. Document, you know, whatever comes up, write it down. When you do dial stuff in, document it. It's so important to get into that habit. And then, you know, of course, build your wall of shame. So in my 101 Tips and Tricks for Sublimation Success, published some years ago, I really go through a lot of the things that I had to learn that were really, we'll call it the recipe or formula for success. So assuming you don't want to reinvent the wheel, then learn from others. Why not? We do have those people, and you know them, that essentially want to do everything themselves, and you have a much higher risk of becoming that roadkill out there by sort of not taking advantage of all the people around you.
We've certainly seen it, that's for sure. Well, I do have another question I want to ask you, David. Are there, you know, people have made comments about the different prices of mugs. So I wanted to ask you, is there a difference in the quality of mugs, and how would you know the difference?
So when it comes to products, first is you really want to buy your product from somebody that knows how to use them, has great videos, instructions, going to stand behind the product, and has, of course, good support. And one of the things we're able to do, because from what I can tell, we're the largest sublimation provider in the world at this point, and you know, really have worked hard, obviously, to earn that. When we go buy products, when we specify the products we want, we're in almost a unique position to buy the top grade products on the market. And one of the things I've often wondered is, if we're buying the top grade, I know they're producing B and C grade. Yes. I wonder where they're going. And so in the case of mugs, we have many requirements for our mug providers. And one of them is, you know, we're looking for that top grade. We're looking for a dimensionally stable mug, you know, straight. We're looking for excellent coating that's applied very well. And since we have our own coating facility here in the United States, we can talk turkey with anybody in the world when it comes to sublimation, substrates, and coatings. And so we're looking for that top grade product. We're also looking for something that is really going to hold up well in the dishwasher. In the dishwasher, you got a combination of highly abrasive detergents along with heat, and all that adds up to challenges for sublimation mugs. And so buying a great grade of sublimation mugs or any substrate is really going to be a great formula for continuing to grow your business with your clients, reorders, because as you know, often maybe only 1 out of 2 people are going to complain. The rest are simply going to take their business somewhere else. And so over the years, we really have focused on a great grade of mug, so that you'll be successful. And of course, we stand behind it.
Yeah, well, David, just exactly what you said. People will complain only a small percentage, and the others will find somebody else that will do the job correctly and will use quality. And there is absolutely a difference in the coating, the way a mug comes out, the way a mug looks. So, absolutely.
I would say, and just one final comment about mugs or any substrates, we very much stand guard, if you will, to make sure the products we are selling, for all the knowledge we have and the knowledge that we can tap into, are safe from a chemical point of view. And you hear about, you turn on the radio, you hear about, a Chinese manufacturer sold something to McDonald's and it had lead in it or something like that. Not picking on McDonald's, but that was an actual incident some years ago. And I'm sure McDonald's has got teams of people that try to prevent something like that from happening. But the bottom line is, the Chinese in general have gotten to be more and more of a wild card with inconsistencies. And of course, we see it in the heat presses. I took apart a heat press the other day for a client that had bought a Chinese press, and of course, I'm an electrical engineer. I was trying to help them, and I looked at the internal wiring of the press, and it scared the you-know-what out of me as being, a product really not very far from being an electrical hazard.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all Chinese presses are that way, but the bottom line is there's so many companies in China that are sort of working out of their garage or basement or their back porch, producing products that again, we just don't have a clue where they're coming from. And there's just no way some of these, if they were inspected, would ever make it into somebody's hands.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of groups out there that show you fires that have happened because of their Chinese press. So it is scary to me that, I wouldn't own one personally. Okay, Carol asked, are manufacturers working on a better cotton feel poly shirt?
So her question is about polyester shirts that feel like cotton.
Yes.
And I would say that they're here today. So Vapor has a number of shirts that feel just like cotton. I think they do an excellent job. So I would tell you to get samples of them, check them out. So I think one of the things I'm amazed at, because I'm not a textile engineer, is all the things that people have done with polyester. A good example is our linen. There's no way on earth a normal person could discern by feeling our linen that really is polyester. And so we worked at that for quite some time to get something that, of course, sublimated beautifully, but more importantly, or as important, felt really nice. So
yes.
In the world of shirts, practically every shirt vendor on the planet has a line of polyester shirts. I got to sneeze here.
Bless you. Bless you.
Excuse me. So every shirt vendor has polyester shirts. Vapor is a company that we sell, and they have a great line. and certainly go out there and sort of sample the shirts. But yes, I think there's absolutely a successful shirts. On shirts, the caveat that I would have for you is never buy, when you're trying to figure out what you want to do, never buy a lot of anything. Sample it, decide does it work, and if, for instance, my phone rings every day, a couple of times a day, and people have bought a colored shirt from another vendor, and when they sublimate it, the color comes out because the dyes are attached to cotton and to polyester molecules, and when you hit heat on the polyester side, that dye just comes right out. So you have to be exceptionally careful when you're buying a colored shirt that it's going to handle the heat of sublimation. And so if you look at the vapor colored shirts like on our website, we actually mark which ones are for sublimation, which ones are sublimation certified, because as the shirt gets darker, you're not going to be able to sublimate to it successfully. You're gonna see where you put the heat.
Yes. Okay, so there's a couple of comments that it looks like David's frozen. So your picture's frozen, but people can hear you, which is really, really important. So, okay, and I think we're gonna wrap it up, David. I so appreciate your time, as always. Thank you. And again, we will be having our live show tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and it will be right here on this page. And we're excited. I'm always excited to have these shows. And then this coming week, David and I will both be at the SGIA show. We will be coming live, and we will be presenting someone with the SG400 printer. So that's exciting as well. So you guys stay tuned. We're just, and Colleen says this has been fabulous, and thank you guys all for all the love and the support. We love you guys, and thank you. And David, again, thank you so much. It's always wonderful. And by the way, how's the weather there for you?
Everything is great. Being on the good side of the storm, if you will, if there is a good side to it. We were spared, anything, from the storm.
Oh, that's good.
So
that's good.
Just, you just wonder, how these decisions are made, wherever they're made. But in this case, things were good for us, and we need to focus on helping, and our prayers with the
Yes.
people in Panama City, in Mexico Beach. Just a lot of devastation, and fortunately not a lot of loss of life. But one of the things, if there is something good about these storms, is it tends to get rid of any of the old structures that really weren't that well built. I was looking at the stuff from the TV today, and you could tell clearly that some of those structures were extremely well made. But on the other hand, those storms come in and they'll take a random path and take out something and leave another structure untouched.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you again. We will see you tomorrow.
You take care.
All right,
Thanks.
you too.